Welcome to Tend. You'll be assuming the role of an interstellar pioneer sponsored by the Zenith Corporation. Your mission is to build a thriving homestead on an uncharted world, filling your cargo manifest with valuable goods to propel Zenith Corp's groundbreaking research towards exciting new frontiers. When playing, you'll choose tasks from a shared set of task cards each round, performing your chosen tasks simultaneously with your fellow players. As the game progresses, new cards are added to the shared deck, changing the available tasks each round. Victory is achieved at the benevolence of Zenith by bestowing their most productive farmers with Zenith points. Earn your points by going fishing, mining the mines, cultivating the forests, collecting badges and medals, completing season objectives, being the friendliest neighbor, and filling up your cargo manifest with valuable goods. Also, people keep asking, is Zenith evil? Tend includes components for 1 to 6 players, but can be expanded pretty much infinitely. Tend would commonly be categorized as a flip and write game, but it also contains a lot of elements not normally found in flip and writes, so watch along and learn all about it. All right, let's get everything set up. First, shuffle the neighbor cards to form a deck and place them in the play area. Then, shuffle all Season 1 objective cards and place one face up to the right of the neighbor deck. Return the remaining cards to the box. Repeat this for Season 2 and Season 3 objective cards. Next, we'll create the 2 upcoming season decks. If this is your first time playing, remove the task cards marked as advanced from all 3 season decks. Then, shuffle the Season 3 task cards and place 3 of them face down in a pile. Then place 3 more next to it to form a second pile. Next, shuffle the Season 2 task cards and place 4 of them on top of each of these piles. Lastly, shuffle the Season 1 task cards and place 4 of them on top of each pile, flipping the top card face up. Return any unused season cards to the box. Next, shuffle the starter task cards and place them face down below the neighbor cards to form the task card draw deck. Then draw the top 5 cards of the starter task deck and place them face up in slots 1 through 5. Next, sort all dice by color and place them in an area that is accessible to all players. Each player should then collect the following: a cargo manifest sheet, a farm sheet, writing utensils, mine and woods scratch-off card, a metal coin, a corporate commissary market board, a guide card, fishing and geode cards, and a set of rolling dice. And finally, draw 4 neighbor cards from the deck and place one next to each neighbor rewards track, discarding the remaining 2. Tend is played over 12 rounds. Each round has a number of phases, which you'll find listed on your guide card: the neighbor phase, scoring phase, setup phase, growth phase, and the task phase. We'll go over each phase in detail, but in general, each round you'll be presented with 5 task cards, of which you'll choose 2. Each player will simultaneously take their turn, choosing 1 card at a time. After selecting a card, you'll perform its tasks and collect any bonus resources before moving on to choose a second card. Once all players have completed their tasks, we'll move to the next round. After 12 rounds, the game ends. To begin, let's go over some core concepts. First, let's talk about resources. Resources in Tend must be used when you gain them. You cannot store them for future turns. You can use resources in 4 ways once you've gained them. 1, you can sell the resource to the corporate commissary to gain the listed number of Z coins, which can then be used like any other resource. 2, you can place the resource in your cargo manifest. 3, you can gift the resource to a neighbor. And 4, you can spend the resource directly on one of your sheets. To spend a resource on a sheet, choose a space showing the matching icon and simply cross it out. Resources can be spent in many different ways to upgrade your tools, earn badges, complete projects, and even unlock new locations. You can also spend resources to till soil or build fences in the groundskeeping area. On both sheets, there are a number of things that can be unlocked by spending resources. Some unlocks show items that are aligned in a grid with dividing lines, such as animals. These require only a single row to unlock. Items in a grid without dividing lines, such as equipment upgrades, require all items to unlock. Note that you may work towards unlocks across multiple rounds. The resources also may be crossed off in any order. When an upgrade is unlocked, it may provide a passive benefit or unlock a new feature on one of your sheets. There are a few ways to earn Zenith points in Tend: the season objectives, which are scored at the end of each season, the resources in your cargo manifest, which are tallied at the end of the game, by completing badges, and finally, the neighbor bonuses. We'll cover each in detail as we go on. The last core concept we'll talk about is tasks. Most task cards will allow you to perform one or more of the 4 tasks: tending, chopping, mining, or fishing. At the start of the game, you may only take one action when performing a task. For example, if you perform a fishing task, you get 1 fishing action. You perform a mining task, you get 1 mining action. You get the idea. However, you may gain additional actions to use during a task by upgrading your tools or by using an energy bar. Each task has at least 1 corresponding upgrade. Once you've crossed off all the necessary resources to unlock the upgrade, you'll now gain an additional action each time you perform that task. Energy bars can be unlocked by spending 3 coins. During a task, you may use an unlocked energy bar by drawing a line across the bar, which gives you 1 additional action. Each bar can be used twice before it's fully spent, but you may only use 1 energy bar per task. Next, we'll cover what you'll be doing on a round-to-round basis. Each round has 5 phases, but we're going to start with the task phase, which is where most of the action in the game occurs. During the task phase, you'll be choosing 2 task cards from the 5 that are face-up in the center of the table, completing them one at a time. Remember that all players will be performing the task phase simultaneously. Note that players may choose any of the cards regardless of what cards other players choose. Task cards determine what you can do on your turn. Some will allow you to perform 1 or more of the 4 tasks, some will give free resources, and others may describe additional actions in text. There are 2 types of task cards. The basic task cards have 1 listed task for you to perform, and conditional task cards have a top and bottom section separated by a condition. On conditional cards, first resolve the top section, gain any of the listed resources, and perform any of the tasks in any order. Then, if you successfully meet the condition, resolve the bottom section as well. Note that you may use the top section even if you do not meet the condition for the bottom. Next, we'll go through the 4 task types in Tend. First up, it's the name of the game, the Tend task. When you perform the Tend task, you may do any of the following Tend actions: plant a crop, water a crop and all crops adjacent to that crop, or till 4 squares on your farm. At the start of the game, you may only perform one of these Tend actions during the task, but you may gain additional actions by upgrading your farming tools or using an energy bar. Now we'll go over each of the 3 Tend actions. First, you may use your Tend action to till soil, which will allow you to plant crops. To do this, draw a squiggly line on any 4 empty squares in your farm area. Next, you may use a Tend action to plant a crop. Take a dice of the matching color of the crop you are planting and place it on top of tilled spaces in your farm, with the one side face up. Crops require a different number of tilled spaces based on their size. Small crops require a 2x2 square of tilled soil. Medium crops require a 3x3 square, and large crops require a 4x4 square of tilled soil. Some crops also require a trellis in addition to the tilled soil before planting. You can unlock a trellis here on your farm sheet. Once you've paid the cost, draw the trellis on any 2x2 space in your farm. Now, plants that require a trellis may be planted on these squares, presuming the area is also tilled. All crop dice in your farm will increase by 1 every round during the growth phase. If you tick up your crop dice and see the icon is filled in white, you immediately gain its resource. If the icon shows an X, after gaining the resource, remove the dice from your farm and return it to the general supply. Also note that once a crop has been planted, it may not be moved. Lastly, you may also use your tend action to water a crop. Start by selecting any one crop in your farm and increasing its value by 1. Then, all crops adjacent to this one, either horizontally or vertically, will also have their value increased by 1. As we just discussed, collect a resource from all watered dice that now show a white icon, and remove any dice that show an X. As with all tasks, there is a tending upgrade. Once you've upgraded your tend tools, you'll gain 1 additional tend action each time you perform the tend task. Similarly, you may also use an energy bar to add 1 additional tend action to your current tend task. Note that you can use these additional actions to perform any of the 3 tend action types. Next up, fishing. To go fishing, first choose an area to fish in. At the start of the game, you only have access to the pond. However, you may unlock new fishing spots throughout the game. Fix the bridge to gain access to river fishing, or make your way to the bottom of the mine or the woods to unlock grotto and lake fishing. Once you've chosen a fishing spot, roll a set of the black and white dice. You may only roll the fishing dice once per fishing task, no matter the amount of fishing actions you have. Once you've rolled, match the numbers to their corresponding row and column. If a dice shows the tend icon, you may choose any number between 1 and 5 as its value. Then, use your fishing actions to collect the item at the intersection. As with all tasks, you start the game with just 1 fishing action per task, and thus can only collect 1 fish. But, as you may have guessed, you can also upgrade your fishing equipment. The rod upgrades give you a larger area from which to collect items while fishing. The expanded collection area is centered on top of the rolled location. Then each lure upgrade gives you 1 additional fishing action per task. Each fishing action allows you to collect an additional resource from the area you have fished. Similarly, if you choose to use an energy bar on a fishing task, it has the same effect as a lure, allowing you to gain an additional fishing action inside the area you fished. Note that you may not gain an item from the same square twice during a fishing task. Each fishing action must be used to collect a resource from a unique square. This also means that for extra fishing actions to be effective, you must first have an upgraded rod, which gives you access to multiple squares during a fishing task. So, for example, let's say I have this upgraded rod, which expands my fishing area to this cross shape. And I have this upgraded lure, which gives me an additional fishing action. I'm fishing in the pond, and I've rolled a 2 and a 2. I can now use my 2 fishing actions anywhere in this highlighted area to collect 2 fish. If I choose to use an energy bar on this task, I could then collect the 3rd fish that is in the highlighted area. Next, the chopping task. This task allows players to gather resources from the woods. As with all tasks, you start the game with only a single chop action to use during this task. First, choose a square that you'd like to chop. The square must be in either the top row or adjacent to a square you've already chopped. Squares in the top half of the woods require 1 chop action to uncover, while squares in the bottom half require 2 chop actions to uncover. This means that in order to chop in the bottom half of the woods, you must either have upgraded your hatchet or use an energy bar, both of which give you 1 additional chop action. When you're ready to use a chop action, simply scratch off the chosen square and gain the revealed resource. If you're on the path, there's a good chance you'll uncover a +1 or +2 chop action icon. These provide you with additional chop actions that can be used during the task. If the uncovered space has a purple background, this means you have leveled up your chopping skills. Immediately cross out the next level on your chop track and gain the resource. Another fun bonus for exploring the woods, if you manage to reach any space on the bottom of the woods, you immediately unlock lake fishing. Grab a lake fishing card and place it near your sheets. As with all tasks, there is a chopping upgrade. Once you've upgraded your hatchet, you'll gain 1 additional chop action each time you perform the chopping task. Similarly, you may also use an energy bar to add one additional chop action to your current chopping task. Lastly, the mining task. This task allows players to gather resources from the mine. This task is essentially identical to the chopping task. As with all other tasks, you start the game with one mining action to use per task. First, choose a square that you'd like to mine. The square must be either in the top row or adjacent to a square you've already mined. Squares in the top half of the mine require one mining action to uncover, while squares in the bottom half require two mining actions to uncover. This means that in order to uncover a square in the bottom half of the mine, you must either have upgraded your pickaxe or use an energy bar, both of which give you one additional mining action. When you're ready to use a mining action, simply scratch off the chosen square and gain the revealed resource. As with the forest, if you're on the path, there's a good chance you'll uncover a +1 or +2 mining action icon. These provide you with additional mining actions that you can use during this task. If the uncovered space has a yellow background, this means you have leveled up your mining skills. Immediately cross out the next level on your mine track and gain the resource. And again, just like the woods, if you manage to reach any space on the bottom of the mine, you immediately unlock a new fishing spot, the grotto. Grab a grotto fishing card and place it near your sheets. When exploring the mines, you may come across the geode resource. If this happens, grab a geode card and roll a pair of the black and white rolling dice. Similar to fishing, you'll gain the resource at the intersection of the row and column of the rolled dice. If you roll a tend icon on either dice, this operates as a wild, allowing you to choose any number between 1 and 5. And as with all tasks, there is a mining upgrade. Once you've upgraded your pickaxe, you'll gain one additional mining action each time you perform the mining task. Similarly, you may also use an energy bar to add one additional mining action to your current mining task. Before we move on, a quick tip for both the mines and the woods. Following the path will be the fastest route to the bottom, due to the numerous extra chopping and mining actions laid out on the path. However, as it is in life, the best stuff is most often found off the beaten path. During the task phase, there are a few bonus actions you can perform at any time, as many times as you'd like, by spending the associated resources. First, groundskeeping allows you to spend resources to till soil or build fences in any open space on your farm. A single Z-coin will allow you to till a single square or construct a single fence. A stone or wood can be spent to construct 2 fences. A copper bar creates 3 fences, and an iron bar or hardwood creates 4 fences. Note that you do not need to cross off the costs here, as they can be bought any number of times. Next, animals. Animals are kept in fenced areas on your farm and produce resources over time. Animals can be unlocked with Z-coins and require a completely fenced-in area large enough to fit their dice. Once you've spent the appropriate amount of Z-coins, you may place the animal dice on your farm. You may place it now or on any future turn. Small animals require a 2x2 space, medium animals 3x3, and large animals require a 4x4 space. Note that you may house multiple animals inside a single fenced-in area. Animals start with their 1 face up, and tick up during the growth phase just like crops. You gain their resources each time you tick to a white face on the dice. Animals differ from plants in 3 ways. First, your animals may be moved freely within their fenced area. Second, instead of disappearing like plants, each animal has a reset icon on one of its faces. During the growth phase, if any of your animals show the reset icon, reset the dice back to 1. Lastly, you cannot water your animals. They don't like it. Neighbor cards represent the resources your neighbors are in need of. Everyone loves a friendly neighbor. To complete a neighbor card, first you must gain one of the resources on that card. Then, spend the resource by giving the card to the associated neighbor. Next, cross out 1 or 2 boxes on your neighbor reward track, depending upon the level of the neighbor card, and then gain the associated resources. During the neighbor phase of each round, you will gain and spend any resources that you were given by your neighbors during the previous round. After you use the resource, discard the neighbor card. Note that when receiving items from neighbors, you may choose either resource on the card, regardless of which item your neighbor spent to give you the card. Also, at the start of the neighbor phase, if you do not have a neighbor card on your right or left, draw 2 cards and choose one for each that you're missing, discarding the extras. Next, we'll cover everything on the projects sheet. On the left side, you'll see the projects section. Here you can spend resources to unlock abilities, purchase resources with Z-coins, and unlock badges. Starting at the top, we have the intern program. After you pay the cost, this allows you to perform any of the 4 tasks. Next, we have the Woods Explorer. After paying the cost, this will double the point value of one of your badges at the end of the game. Next, the buyback program. After paying the cost, this allows you to cross off any one resource on a badge. Then, working our way down the page, you'll see multiple options to trade Z-coins for a resource. Once you've paid the cost, you then gain the resource to be used anywhere else. Note that these are all single use. Finally, we have the badges. When you fully cross off all resources in a row, you gain the medal next to it. Medals can be sold for Z-coins or placed into your cargo manifest. Once you have completed at least 2 of the rows, you have unlocked the badge, which will score at the end of the game. Note that each row completed of a badge awards you a medal, but the badge itself can only be unlocked once. Next, we'll talk about the cargo manifest. This is likely where you'll earn the majority of your Zenith points. Throughout the game, when you gain a resource, it may be placed into your manifest. Each box that is filled in the manifest will score points at the end of the game. To place a resource in your manifest, first look up the resource on your corporate commissary to see what type, shape, and size the resource occupies in your manifest. Then grab a marker or pencil and fill in boxes of that type in the shape shown in the manifest. The shape may be rotated and placed anywhere on your manifest, with one qualification. You may not place a group of resources next to another group of resources of the same type. So, for example, farm goods may not be placed next to other farm goods. Note that alike goods may touch diagonally, but not orthogonally. Whenever you complete an entire row in the commissary, you'll earn a bonus task of the indicated type next to the row. This can make for some massive turns. So why are we doing all of this? Well, other than to further the important research of the good folks at Zenith, at the end of the game, you'll score 1 Zenith point for each box that has been filled in on your cargo manifest, with 2 exceptions. Sections 1 and 3 specify a type of good that scores 0 points in their sections. And Section 2 specifies a type of good that scores 2 points in its section. You're just about ready to play. Before I send you off, we'll quickly go over the structure of each round. 10 consists of 12 rounds, each of which has multiple phases which are performed in order and are listed on your guide cards. First is the neighbor phase. Here you'll spend resources from any gifted neighbor cards in front of you. If you need to refresh either of your own neighbor cards, do that now, drawing 2 and keeping 1. Next is the scoring phase, where we score season objectives. This phase only occurs at the end of each season. Season 1 will score at the start of turn 6, Season 2 will score at the start of round 10, and Season 3 will score at the end of the game. During this phase, players should calculate their Zenith points for the appropriate season objective card and record it in their manifest. Next, the setup phase. First, discard all face-up task cards. Then draw 3 cards from the task deck. If the deck runs out of cards, reshuffle the discard pile to create a new deck and continue drawing as normal. Then bring the top cards of the 2 upcoming season task decks down into play, and flip the next round's cards face up on top of their piles. It can be very helpful to look ahead at next round's cards. Next is the growth phase. Here you'll tick up any dice on all animals and plants in your farm. As previously discussed, if a dice shows a symbol filled in white, gain its resource. After the tick, if an X is showing, return the dice to the general supply. If a reset symbol is showing on an animal, reset the dice to its number 1 face. Then, finally, the task phase. Here, you'll choose and execute 2 task cards, one at a time. Note that in the first round of the game, after setup, you'll skip immediately to the task phase. Also, before you get going, have all players read through each of the 3 chosen season objective cards. Those are going to be really important, so make sure all players have a good understanding of each card. One other aside, we've also included a round tracker on your cargo manifest sheet. It's optional, but it can be a handy way to keep track of your tasks as you complete them each round. After the 12th round wraps up, perform 1 additional neighbor phase, allowing you to use any gifts from your neighbors. Then score the Season 3 objective. Now, on to the final scoring. Zenith points are calculated from several sources. First, total the score from all 3 season objectives. Next, tally points from the cargo manifest. Each square filled in the manifest scores 1 point, with 2 exceptions. Sections 1 and 3 specify a type of good that scores 0 points in their sections. Section 2 specifies a good type that scores 2 points for a specific good in its section. Tally the points scored in each section, and then total them up. Next, score your neighbor bonuses. First, compare your progress on the neighbor rewards track with the neighbor on your left. For every box you have filled that they have not, score 3 points. Now do the same with the neighbor on your right. Finally, score your badges by adding the points listed below any completed badge. As a reminder, a badge is completed by crossing off all resources in at least 2 rows. If you've completed the Woods Explorer project, multiply the score of your badges by 2. Then add everything up to calculate your final score. The player with the most Zenith points is the winner. In case of a tie, players share the victory. A few notes for different player counts. When playing alone, when you complete a neighbor card, discard it instead of giving it to a neighbor. When playing with 2 players, the other player is both your left and right neighbor. And finally, when playing at player counts higher than 6, the recycling program is disabled. We also recommend using a 5 to 6 minute timer per round to keep things moving. I also wanted to let you know about a few tools that may help you on your journey. First is the Tend Companion. The Tend Companion is meant to automate the setup and management of the task and season objective cards. It also includes built-in timers for each round, making this ideal for large player count games. Throw it up on a TV or spread it out across multiple tablets and phones and throw a Tend party. Second, if you've run out of scratch-offs, which is kind of wild because we gave you a lot of scratch-offs, which means you really like this game, which that's awesome. Or you just like an alternative, we have created a digital version. You can find the links to both of these in the description below. Now, before I let you go, some quick tips and tricks. There's a lot of things you can do in Tend, and while it might seem tempting, you're probably not going to be able to do everything all in one game. I recommend choosing a major and a minor focus. Perhaps one game I might major in fishing and minor in tending. Or the next game I might major in tending and minor in chopping. My second tip, focus on getting one upgraded tool as early as possible. The extra action it gives you is invaluable. My third tip is very simple. Energy bars. Use them. And lastly, when you're filling up your cargo manifest, I'd recommend that you focus first on filling that middle section up with as many of the 2 value goods as possible. And that's it. We hope you've enjoyed learning how to play Tend. If you'd like to see some example turns in action, you can find that video below. If you have any questions, please hit us up in Discord or here in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody.